Hello, Hermits. Welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about how to apologize for something. Whether it's something that you caused the issue and you have to apologize, or if it's something that somebody else caused but you got upset. And even though it's hard for you to apologize because you know that you're in the right, but there's a benefit from being able to apologize. What is that? How do you do it? I have a mother who does not really know how to manage her emotions. And, well, one day we were cooking ramen from scratch. So we made the broth and the toppings and everything. And when she was preparing the chicken, I saw her washing the chicken in the sink. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, like, who would do that to a raw meat? And so I told her, like, hey, like, what are you doing? And she just goes, well, I'm washing chicken. And I'm like, knowing her for 30 years, have I ever washed the raw meat in a sink? And then I asked her, have you ever saw grandparents, so her parents, wash a chicken in the sink? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, I've never even heard of it. I've met them a couple times. I watched cook in the kitchen. They never washed raw meat. So I'm like, BS. And then I told her, because I have a friend who has food prepping license. So I told her, and she knows this person. We've been friends for like years. So I told her, should I ask my friend, whom you already know, who has food prepping license, and ask her that if this is a good idea? And then at that point, she's furious, right? She's feeling offended. And she went, oh, like a child having a tantrum, and then dozed off out of the kitchen. And, you know, I just kept on cooking the ramen, because honestly, I didn't even feel like talking to her, because I know I was in the right. But that moment we got into the argument, like, it was like circulating in my head, kind of like a repeating a VHS. And I'm thinking, I don't like this. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want all these like negative thoughts like ruminating in my head. So I went back and like actually reflected on what I said. And I asked myself, like, how could I have avoided this conversation from getting heated? What made her upset? And then I realized that, you know, I was raising my tone of voice. I was practically kind of yelling, and I wasn't being respectful. Mind you, she's not really a good person. But I actually, when I finished cooking the ramen, I brought it out to the table. I told her, like, eat it. Go on and eat. And she picked up the bowl and she started munching on it really slow. And I sat down and I said, hey, Mom, what happened earlier? Like, I'm very sorry. I may have been a little bit rude. She did like a really slow nod, which is a very good sign as an Asian / Japanese, because Japanese people bow for different reasons, and one way is to show the other person that, hey, I got you, like, I understand, I agree to what you said. And it also could mean like, thank you for what you did or said. And that's when I realized my mom actually forgave for that incident of what I did. And then, yeah, we just started talking like nothing ever happened. The point of this story is that if you have self respect and self dignity, you will be able to apologize no matter what circumstance it is, even if you're in the right. Apologizing for something you've done that's wrong, that'll help you to like self-reflect. It's like the very first step on self-reflection. You see the other person's reaction and then you say, oh, I'm so sorry I did this and that. That's just the beginning though. You actually have to reflect on what you did and then learn from that situation on like what you could have done better. What could you have changed? What can you change from now on so you don't have to repeat that same mistake over and over again? It's called accountability. But in my instance, let's say that I did nothing wrong and my objection was completely reasonable. It's washing a chicken in a sink is like buying a brand new shoe and washing it with dirt water. It's not sanitary. And two, we bought like the freshest chicken. It was like a halal meat. And we actually saw the guy chopping the chicken and putting it in the container so he can put it out like display. So it was like the cleanest, freshest meat. And I was like, why would you do that? Right? But I apologized anyway because I cared about myself. I didn't want those negative feelings from that because of what transpired to stay inside of me. I could have kept on arguing. But for instance, for my mother, she would not have listened. Okay, when she shuts down, like, there's no word, no argument that you can win her over. You can tell when somebody's shutting down because they will not speak to you. They will pretend like you're not there. In that instance, the only way to get through to them is apologizing. But you also have to sound sincere. So that's when your accountability needs to kick in, because you need to find something you did that contributed to that issue that you could have done better. Like I said earlier, like I could have lowered my tone. I didn't have to like overreact or got triggered. And I didn't have to yell. I could have kindly disagreed with her choices. So if anything, one, I learned what I did wrong, what I could have done. Because as long as there's two people involved in any argument or fight, they're both at wrong at something. It could be like the way they reacted and how they handled. Or maybe one person was rude. As long as two people are involved, the responsibility are on both parties. Something made it worse. So even if you know that you're right, if you have any respect for yourself, or even the other person, you should be able to reflect on yourself and say, okay, what could I have done better? And then the act of apologizing itself is like owning the situation, being in control of what happened. When I apologized, I actually felt really good about myself because it proven to me that I am much better of a person to be able to take the situation seriously, and on top of that, like, be able to be responsible, like being able to initiate, to start the healing process, to like learn how to calm down being able to take power of the situation and in control. Like that itself is worth apologizing for. To prove yourself that you're better than this, than some little argument about washing a chicken, right? I am much more worse than fighting over some stupid topic. Or how somebody does something, how others decide to do something. It's not my issue. My issue is how can I make myself feel better? And if this person is not making me feel better, then what can we do to make the situation better? Maybe I could have politely asked her to not do the same thing ever again. Or at least in my house. You know, she can do whatever she wants in her own house, just not at my place. There's always a way to work things out. You just gotta sit down and talk about it. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's never easy. But as long as you and the other person are an intellectual, sentient being, arguments are going to always happen. But it's a lot more harder to be able to assess the situation and then taking the best action for that situation. Because most of the time, people get caught up on their ego. They want to prove themselves right or try to prove the other person wrong for what they do. Or they just have like this super unstable confidence that tells them apologizing is going to make me look stupid or like a loser. It's the complete opposite. People who can take accountability and be able to apologize, even if you did not cause the problem, you are probably even better than like 80% of this population of humanity. You are able to prove yourself that you're a much better person than to argue about something stupid. That's minuscule, that's trivial. And yes, you do need to learn how to prioritize. One way to help you to learn how to apologize for like a small argument or misunderstanding is to know what to prioritize. For me, I already created a list of what is really important to me. That no matter who talks to me or tries to talk me out of, I'll say no. I can't compromise that. Then no bueno. And for me, peace is like on my top 3 list. Peace and calm. And anybody who is going to get in my way of obtaining that, I try to assess the situation. It's by case. You know, my parents are very chaotic. You know, they're like a storm that just comes and goes. Maybe it's because I grew up in that situation that it made me say, I want peace and calm. I don't know. But that is my top priority, and then depending on the situation, I may or may not compromise something slightly. But you need to learn how to like create that border of this person can do this much, this person can't do this much. If you know how to prioritize, you'll know what is not that important that you can just let it go. You'll be able to let it go. Guess what? If she washed the chicken under the sink or not is not that important to me. I would rather prioritize like future investments and maintaining calm and peace is like much more important than some chicken. Right? So yeah, I was able to just apologize and get it out of the way. Because I know what's more important than that. So that's number one tip, is know what to prioritize. So you can let some things just go. Get rid of it. Get it out of the way. And so you don't have to even worry about it ever again. Tip number 2 is to actually assess the situation in a very logical way. I would like you to ask yourself, if you get in a situation like that, what are you trying to get out of it? What are you trying to get out of it? For me, I was in such a shock. In a way, I got triggered. I thought that everybody had common sense, and for somebody who's going against that, I was like, oh my god, what are you doing? But then at the end of that, what was I trying to get out of it? Sometimes when we're getting triggered, we're not really thinking straight, and we're just kind of reacting to the situation. Ask yourself, what are you trying to get out of this? I personally wanted her to say, okay, I understand now. And guess what? I was not saying these arguments in a way that was convincing. Even when I go back and think about it, I was not saying in a convincing way. Because I was purely just reacting to the situation. And I wasn't thinking through. Now that I think about it, I'm like, how would anybody listen to me the way I was talking? Maybe for her to just stop, take the chicken out of the sink. And she did do it right away, so I could have just stopped right there. Or maybe if I was much more respectful and courteous and polite, maybe she would have listened to me right away. Maybe she would have asked me questions like, why can't I do it? Then I could just explain it. The situation could have been much better. It was easily avoidable. If I was more in control of myself, it would not have gotten that bad in an argument. So yeah, next time, think more logically. Ask yourself, why are you doing this? What are you trying to get out of it? And you'll be surprised that most of the time when we get into a situation like that, we don't really know what we're even looking for. Try it next time. Tip number 3 is do it for yourself. Like I said in the beginning, if you have self-respect and dignity, and you prioritize your own peace and happiness, you'll be able to apologize. Just like how on tip 1, where you have to learn what to prioritize, you have to put yourself on priority. And then you'll quickly realize that what you're arguing about is so minuscule. It doesn't even really matter. Your peace and happiness should be the number 1 top priority. And you're jeopardizing that by putting a hissy fit or overly, let's say I did something wrong and I knew that I was wrong. If I didn't have self-respect and dignity, I would be overly apologetic. I'll be like, I am so sorry, I don't know how I can undo the situation. No. If you have self-respect and dignity, even when you apologize, you'll be in a much level-headed place and be able to say, okay, this is what I did wrong. This is why it happened. Can we talk to see what can we do to make this situation better? Because if you care about yourself and your happiness and dignity, and if you have confidence, you know that everybody makes mistakes, even to something very small. We all make mistakes, and in a way you have to admit that. But for that you need self-respect, dignity, and self-esteem. Because without it, then you start to either torture yourself because of that situation. Whoever they owe the apology, you end up giving like all of your power to them by overly apologizing. But in that case, I'm not saying don't apologize, because then you're using your ego as an excuse to not apologize. Oh, I don't have to apologize. Nothing really bad happened. If you have enough self-respect and dignity, you'll be able to apologize just because it's right. I can't really make a certain advice because this is a very overgeneralized video. I can't really say, oh, in this case do this, in this case do that. In a way, this is just like an overall observation of why apologizing is good. So yeah, next time, like, just try to be more curious of what's going on in your head. Just a little bit. And yeah, make sure that you're in a safe environment. You know, just make sure that the argument doesn't heat it up so much that you're gonna end like a physical fight. In that case, just leave the situation. No matter, it does not matter who started the fight, who is right, who is wrong. It's make sure you're safe. And it might sound like a common sense, but some people get so heated up and worked up in the situation that they just forget about it. Assess the situation, make sure that you're in a safe environment, make sure that the other person has calmed down because they're also getting heated up in the situation, and then see if they'll take your apology. So yeah, that's my tip for today. I hope you find it useful. Comment down below like if you have any other tips that I missed. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.